Hello, welcome back to Aether. This is Satomi and Paul from sakaso.ca. So let's start this week's episode. It's continued topic.
Well,
right?
Healing with a Psychic.
Yeah.
Part 11 today.
Mm-hmm.
And today's focus is going to be on awareness and making different choices.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, as always, questions and comments are welcome. It enriches the conversation here when you guys send us things, and we're always appreciative. And and of course, if you end up liking the video, subscribe, like, share, all those good stuff. Okay, so let's dive in. So the question is, we end up failing so often and being frustrated because we are struggling with to be aware of what we're going through and to then make a different choice. So, in other words, we'll give you an example. So for me, my healing journey working with Satomi, when she would do a reading for me, she'd raise my awareness to things like not getting into the same mindset while I'm working, right? That was a big deal for me because I would get into a certain mindset, and we talked about this during the series about the perfectionism was one example of how I was getting into a certain mindset, and achievement is another example, right? Always wanting to achieve, that's another one. So the question is, how do I stay, like she would bring my like I'm in pain, right? So I come to her and I'm in physical pain and I'm like, what's up, right? I've been working on this so hard. We've made so many adjustments. I've healed and made shifts and that kind of thing. And here I am, I'm in pain again, right? And you would say something along those lines, right? Those were definitely ones that were repeated multiple times. It wasn't like it was a new thing, but we did do when she first brought it up, we would do subconscious shift work after that reading. So you would tell me what the issue is. I would do subconscious shift work.
Like a letting go of perfection.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Letting go of achieving. Yeah.
And it was strange because letting go of perfectionism is it sounds like it's straightforward. It's like I let go of perfectionism, right? So like, what does that mean to your subconscious mind? Because your subconscious mind doesn't understand necessarily that abstract concept. And what is leading to the perfectionism? In that case, there was a bunch of different things that were all working together and reinforcing that mindset, right? So we would take on one at a time. But it's me, one of them is, just having the awareness, right? Of getting into that same mindset. So I'd go to sit down at work again. I'd be wailing away, working on something probably technical or something, right? Building an app or whatever the case may be. And I'd want to get things done. I'd want to solve the problem that I was working on. And I'd have technical frustrations with it, right? Coding is like that, and especially like me, I'm learning as I go, and so I'd run into something. I think it should work a certain way. I'm doing the very reasonable things, and it doesn't work, right? So why is that? What is going on? Something is in there, and it's not behaving the way logic would say that it should work. Right, but that's because of the way the architecture of the technology is, and something like that. Something's outside of my understanding, and so I'm running into that, right? And I would get very frustrated, right? I would tend to get it would creep into that. Let's start there. I would because I'd be in a good mood in the morning. I'd start out. I'd get into it, and I'd run into a hiccup, and I'd be like, okay, it's not giving me what I'm expecting, and then I keep working at it, and try a little bit different, and it still wouldn't work, right? And each time I'm running into that, I'm getting more and more zeroed in, especially if I set myself an objective, like I want to get it done today,
Yeah.
and I've got 3 other things I want to get done, right? And I run into that setback, and that frustrates me to a certain degree. Like even if it's just very small, even if it's very subtle, right? And I start getting into this. I start getting that tunnel vision, where I start to become less and less aware of what's around me, and anything else that's going on, I've got to solve this problem, right? And so at a certain point, nothing else matters to me besides solving that problem. And so when it doesn't work the way I want, it's very frustrating, or it starts to get more and more frustrating, right? So that's that's part of the repeating problem I ended up in. And because of that, that would put my energy into I'll get off center. And if people try to tell you that energy doesn't have much of an effect, right? They say, oh, you have a physical problem, therefore it must be a physical cause, right? That is not accurate. I can tell you, if your mindset, your emotions have a tremendous effect on your physical well-being. Tremendous. Like for me, the next day, if I got into that zone and I stayed there for any extended period of time, I could be in a lot of pain the next day. So like there's a direct correlation between the place that I'm in psychologically, emotionally, and how I would feel physically the next day. And then I'd be like, Satomi, what's the deal? why am I in pain? And so she would tell me, well, we've done this shift, but you're still slipping into that same behavior, right? So that's why we have the 3rd step in Sakuso. So this is our 3 steps are that you identify the actual problem, then you make subconscious shifts in order to make it possible to change the way you're doing things. And then step 3, which for me sometimes is tricky, is shifting my habits. So for me to shift my habit, like for like, I don't know, decades, I've like zeroed in on getting the job done, on solving the problem. I always that's the way I looked at it. So many things was solving problems. Right?
And you look for problems. Right? Even if there's no problems, you look for problems.
Yeah.
It was because it was your job, right? As a QA.
Yeah, I was a quality assurance lead for a long time doing software development. And before that, I was doing scientific research where I was trying to disprove theories, and I was building applications and creating statistical analyses that would do that. So basically, I was trying to break that theory. I was trying to break my own software. Then my job was to break other people's software. So that's my whole job, is to look for problems, right?
And
for
then
my
so
whole
you're
career.
doing it every day, and then for most of the day. So your pattern is looking for problems. It's their problem. There must be problems. And if I don't find problems, it's going to be a problem. So just looking for problems. And I remember like a very first period of time when we got together, and then we are not computers. Don't look for problems. So it's not just when he is working.
And I'm like, what?
Right? It's
I understood,
right? All day long, and it's like that. He looks for problems in me, not literally consciously. It's not him doing it consciously, but his just mindset is look for problems. And then I was like, oh my God, don't just look for problems. We are living being and we are living every moment here. There's no problems. We're just being alive here, right? But that was
tough for me to get past, and there's even more subconscious programming connected to that, and more of my life that's connected to that, which is that from the influence I received from the other people that were around me, I was getting the message that there was something wrong with me, right? And that no matter what I did, it was wrong, right? So my solution to that was to try to remove any problem on my side and do things right. So you can get the idea what's going on here. I was always looking for problems in myself, and at the same time I was also looking for problems in other people, because there was something going on. I didn't get it. I didn't know what was going on. I knew there's something wasn't right. They kept coming at me, right? So I was trying to figure what the deal was with them, right? So my whole life, personal and professional, was all about looking for problems and trying to solve them, right? And then I met you, and you're like, yo, so you can do something different, right? It doesn't need to be that way. So and there I am sitting down at work each day, and I'm trying to incorporate the shifts that Satomi's helping me with to not see everything as a problem, which is another one of the shifts that we did. And that's a big deal. And so she saw that as one of the components was underlying the perfectionism, right? So there's different, you can say perfectionism, but then like we're saying, there's pieces underneath that. That's one of them. It's one example of a subcomponent to the perfectionism, is that I'm seeing everything as a problem, right? And then I need to solve that. So those things she identified, we did subconscious shift work, but then me sitting down to work, right? And then there I am in the same activity, trying to do it a different way.
So you made a shift, right? So you change what's going on, how you do it inside of you, but you are back in the same pond, the toxic pond, right? And then you breathing in, drinking the water, and then yes, you're gonna get those one, like any toxic in you, if you are not aware, right? And then if you can change the pond, right, work environment, go to something totally different, but that's lots of times it's not easy, right? And you kept doing the same work, right? And so you want to raise awareness, so it can be toxic, but you can turn around, be not toxic, right? And then so that's the tricky part.
So just to extend that a little bit into a different area than we want to focus on, but it's might be helpful to people as a really good tip, that if you can't change that environment, like you're going to be going back to the same workplace, right? You can shift how your little space in that workplace, right? So if you're in a cubicle, and everybody decorates them, right? Change the decoration, right? Change the feng shui of your workspace. Move your computer over if you can, right? Or something like that, right? Just shift things around. Get a little more light and sunlight in there if you can, or any of those kinds of things. And your home space, that's why decluttering, right? We've done video on Danshari, which is, maybe you can explain that just very quickly. We'll move on from there.
Danshari it's I think it's a Buddhism theory, and it's three things, Danshari, right? What's the English?
You said to
cut,
Or is that the second one?
I think we first cut and remove,
okay.
and then release.
Release,
And, yeah,
like your connection
does
to
it,
it.
yeah, does it make sense?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So three things, and then you are cutting attachment, and you are removing and then releasing out of your life.
Yeah.
Right. So that it's physical way they do, just throw away things that you don't need anymore.
Yes.
Instead of keeping it and sitting there. It's
Yes.
energy, it's gonna stuck, and your old energy is attached to whatever.
Yes,
and
yes.
you don't need those energy anymore. And then just give it away.
So even physical objects that you kind of have attached to in some way, letting them go, clear. It's not danshari is a lot of times considered just to be decluttering, and it's much more like what you're saying. It's actually energetic, an energetic shift where you're disentangling yourself from the things that you're attached to, and so that's very liberating to your energy. Once you're not connected to something, then you've got that little bit of energy that you can redirect towards something else, right?
Yeah,
that was already tied up in something, right?
That's why when we do like a spring cleanup, you feel so lighter, right?
Yeah.
And it's just energetic flow is starting to move nicely when you do the cleaning and declutter. Just energy changes instantly, right? And then that's so mental side of like benefit of danshari, right? Physically, you're removing stuff and then changing things, rearranging things, and then it gives you benefit spiritually and emotionally, psychologically, and it's a philosophy or theory, you can say, but it's been like 100 of years of, right? And it's still here. That means because it works, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and like just as one example, if you're getting rid of things and you're going through an old box and you see your old framed photo of a previous marriage or something, like previous wedding day, right? And you look at it and you get all sad. You're attached to that. That's a big attachment. So that one you might want to let go. Right, and that's just an example of how things can have attachments, right? Or a gift that was, you're hanging on to. So that's just one example. But then, going on a sidetrack, but coming back to me being in that space and working, how do we make choices? Well, how do I make a different choice while I'm working, which is the third step in Sakuso? It's practicing a different way of living your life. So we could make those shifts all day long that would open up the potential for me to grow and heal. But if I don't shift the way I do things and make different choices, it doesn't mean anything, right? So that's why it's a participation. It's anyone doing Sakuso. It's not us who do the healing for people; they do it themselves, right? Anyone doing Sakuso, anyone healing with any process, you're healing yourself, right? It's your body that does the healing. It's your sight. It's your mind, your emotions. You're taking yourself into more centered, more authentic way of being, right? And that's your job. That's sort of that's only. We can only take responsibility for ourselves, right? Nobody else can have that responsibility. So how do I do that while I'm working? And that's the big question.
How do you do that? That means raising awareness.
How do I raise my awareness and make a different choice while I'm working? That was tricky. That was really, really tricky for me to learn. First of all,
it was just I don't know, stuck there and tattooed everywhere.
Oh my God.
It was a stubborn one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. now when we do shifts, it is a lot easier for me to be aware enough to make, to remember to do things differently. That was the big trick for me at the beginning of the process, was to simply remember to do things differently. You remember all that?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what did you? Let's
What
go
did I
back
do?
to you doing computer work or something.
So-
So you made a shift,
Yeah.
and then now you're doing a third step, being aware, so you are not going back to the same pattern.
It's not easy to describe that one, but I can definitely say what practices helped. Number one was doing more shift work with you and letting and healing more from my PTSD. The more I healed from my PTSD, the less I was getting shoved into that anxious way of looking at things. So there's an anxiety that builds when you're anticipating things going wrong, right? So I'm anticipating a problem preventing me from finishing my plans for the day. So I would get anxious about that, and that would make me get frustrated, or I would end up being, I'd frustrate myself, is a better way to say that. And so by the less anxious I was, the easier it was for me to stay aware and not go into that tunnel vision and be obsessed in kind of in an OCD way with getting that thing fixed, fixing that problem, right?
But you did some physical things, right?
I did.
So shifts, you did lots of shifts, like being safe. That's one big one,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It is safe, even if you don't finish all the tasks, it's safe, right? So those there's lots of different angles we did.
Because I thought my subconscious was interpreting that as unsafe, and that's why I was getting anxious, and that's why I was getting frustrated. Yeah.
So, but you did like taking breaks, regular breaks.
That's what I was going to say. Yes.
Yeah. So, and then first one you said rearranging now workspace.
Yeah.
Right. What exactly you did? You start using your mouse with your left
That was
hand.
one thing. Yeah.
It's just it's like messing up your system, right? And so it doesn't automatically go back into your old pattern. So using
I'm very
mouse,
right-handed.
Yeah.
But I switched to my left hand.
And so it's not automatic. You are giving subconscious is like automatic work, is all subconscious controlling, right? So by using mouse with your left hand, so you just stopping now automation right there, right? The subconscious said, what am I doing? Right? It's not automatic anymore. Then you have a chance consciously to be aware of what we are going to do.
Exactly.
Right. So that was a good
stopping
one.
me from getting into my rut. Yeah.
And so that was one. So rearranging the computer desk space.
And I would sit in different places as well, right? Or I'd work in different places. Yeah.
Like sit at the desk, sit at the couch for a little bit. So moving. Changing your sitting position,
different room.
Yeah, it's and then you giving yourself a reset time, right? And those
sometimes I use a back chair, sometimes a regular chair. Those kind of things. All those physical things would help. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you not get back in the same pond. You are still in the pond, but you are making a different flow of the pond, right? And then that creating a space for you to be aware, right? So that's the important one. What else did you do? Taking breaks.
Taking breaks. So what does that mean? Taking breaks. So what I did there was I would regularly through the day I'd step away from what I was doing, so I'd break the flow. right? And that was not easy for me, right? Because I get so obsessed and so OCD about it. I would take the break and I would then just center myself. I would do an exercise, I'd stretch, I would breathe, I would do a little self-massage, right? That kind of stuff that would help me with muscle stuff, right? Any of those things, or I would break for meditation. And that's another one of the big ones that I did, was simply by, I kept moving, I kept taking longer, a little bit longer by 15 minutes. Every once in a while, I'd up the amount of time that I would meditate. And it's not just the duration, it's the style of meditation that I was doing. More and more, I have worked, this took a lot, okay? This took a lot, but oh my God, me reprogramming myself from trying to achieve something in meditation to simply letting go, right? Simply just relaxing, simply just relaxing my muscles during meditation was an enormous task for me, and keeping them relaxed, right? That took years. That's how programmed I was to be tense about everything and get anxious and what would I get anxious about in meditation? So there's a practice right there, right? I would get anxious about not having a good meditation. Or I would get, yeah, that's a really dumb one, right? Well, I can even do better than that. I'd be anxious because I could tell the meditation was getting down to the 20-minute mark or something, and then it would be over soon. So then that would be kind of like, it's almost over. So like, oh no, it's almost over. So I'm getting anxious about, oh my God, this is ridiculous, right? There's this weird automatic, you need to be anxious about stuff, right? You need to worry about things. You need to, it didn't matter what it was. It really didn't matter. It's like the anxiety did not care. What it was focused on.
You anxious about you not doing a good job, right? It comes to that.
Yes.
It doesn't matter meditation, I'm not doing good job meditating. Or work, I'm not doing good work, right? And so it comes down to not doing a good job is like a perfection. The other side of perfection is driven by that anxiety. Right?
So all of those things together were helping me to break out of that rut. And I would also recommend exercise as another way of doing it, right? So if you're not big on exercise, do something. It doesn't matter if it's just 5 minutes. 5 minutes of going up and down stairs. I did that for a while, right? I would take a break and I would just go 5 minutes up and down the stairs. Right?
And it changes the flow, the energy. Instead of sitting in one spot, the energy is gonna be to kind of slow down and stop, right? And it's not for everybody. Some people can sit in all the whole time and they can still keep the energy flow, right? That's when they don't have the subconscious blocks, right? But once you have the block and then you just focus on what's going on here and you're not connected to your body, and energy stop flowing. And then by just getting up and doing a little bit walking around and just running and just jumping jacks on the spot, right? I don't know how, not so many people probably want to do jumping jacks at workplace, but still that the idea is just moving and then giving that's connecting to your body different way, right? And then the energy start to flow, right? Clear your mind.
I mean, even if you are if you're in a kind of workplace where you're expected to be on the job all the time, right? That kind of thing. You don't have a very flexible situation.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're at your computer and you just close your eyes for 30 seconds and just breathe, and just do nice, deep, slow breaths, even put your hands on your lap if you can, then go right back to it, right? You can't possibly get in heck from your manager for doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you used to laugh at me because I cannot sit still.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And doing any kind of work, I want to move around. I want to change my position, and just constantly changing something, right? And then it's just, I don't know, I feel my energy start to slow down and stop. And if I'm listening to some not interesting subject, and somebody talking, is like, this, right? And then I'm just trying to be connected. And then if I'm sitting, I'll be just not connected. I can be disconnected in 5 seconds, right? If I'm sitting, and so just not moving like a big motion, but just like a quietly, I'm stretching something, right? Going like this, right? This and this, right? Those things, it really helps me, and so I can stay focused. And yeah, but I know you used to laugh at me, just constantly changing position. And if I'm at home, I'm working at home, I'll be at the desk, and next second I'll be at the floor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's why we didn't get you a computer, like a desktop computer. That was not, that would kill you. So yeah.
Just a portable one.
Yeah.
I can move.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, being able to make choices like that, right? Have the awareness and make a different choice than what you made before. For me, it was much harder, and it was next to impossible when I was really affected strongly by PTSD and all that anxiety and OCD, like I was explaining. But it gradually got better. And I would have so many reminders around me. I would put a note in front of me, right in front of me by the computer screen.
Yeah, take breaks.
I would take breaks, or like, be aware, right? Whatever the case may be. I put these messages there. You can't keep them there ongoing, because then you stop seeing them. Yeah. Right. So you got to mix it up, right? And then I have my phone sometimes make a little a little reminder every once in a while. Or I'll have it in my Google Calendar as a reminder. Again, like if they're there all the time, you stop seeing them. That's the case for me anyway. So it works for a little while, and then try a different strategy, then try it and a different one, and then maybe come back to that other one that was there before, that kind of thing. So all those things were kind of forcing me, and I would also ask you to remind me, right? And she did. She helped me she'd come up to me every once in a while and say, maybe meditate now would be a good idea, right? She just said in the most gentlest way, why don't you think about meditating, right? I'd be like, what are you talking about? What do you mean?
I don't have time to meditate.
I got to get this done. That automatically I go there. And that's why she's reminding me in this very gentle way, and then she's skedaddling. You always skedaddled every time, right? So you didn't stick around.
I just dropped the words.
Yeah.
How about meditation? And then boom.
Yeah.
It's dangerous, don't I? I can feel the dark energy here. So I don't want to stick around. I'll just throw that words and see what happens.
So I knew enough to not just get mad at her for doing that, even though it would be a little bit of a like, right? I would force myself to get up and take that break when I got into that, right? And then meditate, and then maybe come back to it afterwards. And it makes the world a freaking difference. It really does. It makes so much difference. There's like when you're trying to get things done, you're making choices, and you make not that great ones when you are all zeroed in, right? You think that you're super focused, and you think that that's the ideal way to be, because you can be focused on the job and get it done, right? And that's how you get things done. No, being aware is how you make it, you find the optimal solution, and you find a far easier and more appropriate approach than the one you're all zeroed in on, right? So it did nothing but benefit me, even though there was all this habit in this ingrained rut in me to keep going with that. So it was a years-long struggle, right? A years-long practice.
Yeah, I know.
That's a better way to say it.
I don't know you remember, but we had even arguments over this, right? Like
Yes, I do remember, actually.
You going focusing,
Yeah.
right? But I see it as tunnel vision,
Yeah.
right? And then, but for you, it's like focusing. It's important to focus and this instead of just looking around so many other things, focus and get this done. And then, no, you have to have your eyes open instead of just looking at one things. You will be missing out all those opportunities that presenting you. You're not looking at those things, and you're gonna miss out. And there might be better solution out there, but because you're going like this, you're gonna miss out, right? And then, but for you, like, I don't have time to look around, and I have to do this, right? And it didn't make sense to you, so it was harder for you to switch, and like that was like for you probably it was danger to.
Well, that's exactly what,
right.
That's the instinctive behavior that you're up against, right? Because when you are in protection mode, and you're looking at the tiger, right? You saw the tiger. Now all you see is the tiger. You've forgotten about everything else, right?
If it is really a tiger, maybe,
yes,
but it
yes.
Is it?
No,
right?
It's not. It's a little bit of code that's not going exactly the way I want. But in my mind, it's a tiger, right? Because that's what PTSD does. You can't tell the difference between a tiger and a stuffy, right? You can't tell the difference. That's the problem with PTSD, and you just like, and it just becomes a whole different experience for you. So there's also another exercise, and I can't relay it to you in a really good way, because I didn't practice it myself, but I am aware of it, and I'll just throw it out there. There is a practice you can do of breaking your vision, like where you look. Right. So you can, instead of only looking at things just this far away all day long, you take a moment, those breaks that we're talking about. And one of the exercises you can do is you switch back and forth between long range vision and short range, right? And that helps snap you out of that tunnel vision thing, right? It's a very good exercise. Over time, that became easier and easier. Making that shift and being able to be aware more. And now, when I'm starting into that thing, there's an energetic thing that I haven't 100% figured out, but I can get into a place where I'm having some kind of reaction, I call it, right? So I'm not aware of it yet. There's a frustration in me. You feel it because of your empathic ability, and I feel like I'm fine, and I start acting funny towards me. You start pulling back, right? And conversation becomes difficult between us, right? And it used to be that would be such a big trigger for me to get frustrated with you, right? But aside from that, I've realized now, I just want to make the point that I can read that situation and I'm like, oh, I think I know what's going on here. I think I need to take a break. So I do, and I can fix it, right? And I can let it go. And actually that that energetic reaction comes up and I can deal with it. There's different ways. And so I don't get into that space. So what I'm trying to get at is that over time I've become more aware.
Right? And then so you can make different choices. So
that I can make different choices like that right there, instead of me going down the same rut and then seeing Satomi's reaction as a problem that I need to solve and get frustrated with you because when I try to solve it, it doesn't work. And no, it doesn't. And because you're not a computer or something. So I'm able to make a different choice. Instead of getting frustrated and trying to solve the problem, I take a break myself and I go take action to resolve whatever that thing was coming up in me, and it's gone, right? And then it's fine. So that having that skill is something that developed over time, but is incredibly important to practice, because it was only by practice, and years of meditation practice, it was a big part of the way I was able to help along, has paid off with that, right? So there's patience, there's I have to let it go when it happens. Like if I fall on my face, which I did so many times, I can't beat myself up about it, right? Yeah. So I have to let it go and just consider it to be a learning situation. You were always wonderful about it. You know, sometimes you weren't so happy with me, but you would let it go, and we move on, right? So then that over time it just became better and better, and my energy became lighter. Right? Like if you like everything you fall on the face, you still do. Like even you made a shift, and then you created new habit. Still, once in a while you fall on the face, but then you get frustrated. Why I'm still having this issue, right? I'm still having pain and whatever. And then I like that many times. Okay, just remember 5 years ago, right? And compared to right now, is that the same or is that better? Yes, you're having pain right now, but is that as bad as 5 years ago, or is it happening as often? And it's like you're like, oh, yeah, it's way better. I cannot compare this pain with 5 years. It's totally different, right? And then you're like, oh, okay, I am healing, right? But if I don't say that, you're like, oh, no, I'm not doing it. I tended to be pretty rough on myself. Yeah. And then what happened is you are giving away your power. You're telling yourself you're not doing it. You're not healing, right? That's what you're saying. And then you are reprogramming subconscious mind that you can't heal. Yes. Right? Yeah. And then what's going to happen, you made a progress, huge progress, and then you are making a new program that you cannot heal, and then you're making a path to go downhill. So right? When you're working through healing, it isn't necessarily a one direction track, right? You can get onto another track that might be better than it was, but still having other complications. So that's why it's good to have someone like yourself around to help me reorient and say, okay, what's going on? And then you'll say, you'll let me know, right? To be and you've told me that, to be gentle with myself, right? And to do you remember how you phrased it? Maybe you don't. I don't remember. Probably multiple times, but that was the idea. But you did tell me in a couple of readings at least. Yeah. That being gentle with myself.
And
is
give yourself
important.
credit that you are doing it, right? Don't deny your work that you have done. And the other thing was like maybe it's not just you, many other people too. It's like that with you, I was seeing it clearly, and that I think you would say it's from PTSD, but it's like a game of Othello, right? And you start with
that board game.
Yeah, board game, black and white, those chips, right? And you have black. Let's say black is negative experience, and a white is lighter and positive experience, right? So you start with black, and you make shift, and then white, right? So black, white, and then you hit black, and all of them gonna be turned into black.
The way I look at it.
The way you looked at it. Like, look, you had those days. Don't make those one black.
You reminded me of that about 100 times.
Or
1,000.
at least, yeah. So, and that was hard. It was hard on me, right? He could deny everything when he hit one black. It goes, all the rows gonna be black. It doesn't matter how many, let's say you have 10 whites, but then you hit the next one, 11th one is the black, then all the white, 10 of them going to black, and it's not working, right? And and then he could be mad at me and yelling at me and all those things, and it happened, right? And then look, can you count those days? You should start making notes, not only when you're having hard time, making notes on the days that you're doing good, right? Because you people don't, right? And they just make notes when things are bad. And it hits us emotionally, right? And then the good days gonna disappear, right? And that was hard. And I'm glad that I think we got over that period. But so it's with you, it was really, really strong, that reaction. But lots of people have that tend to be that way too, right? So
we're very, very hard on ourselves.
So look at the discount those good days, and good days gonna be longer and more than before you make shift, you make change, right?
And the funny thing is, going through that process, once I did make a shift, did realize, oh, you're right, we did have all those other positive white, then all those ones would be turned from black to white again. When I look back at it, it's like, still emotionally, okay, that makes sense, but well, I mean past the emotional part, right? Once I'd gotten past that, I realized we'd all go back to white again.
So, and then you can keep moving, but it wasn't just once. I had to go through many times, same message, right? And then, but that doesn't mean that you are not moving forward, right? You moving forward, but you need reminder, and then so awareness. It's not going to be 100% just overnight.
So this is one of the things I wanted to. I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things I wanted to touch on is there's an acid test, right? Like to be able to tell whether or not you're in. So like that's me believing my own crap, right? My own BS, right? I'm telling a story that it's negative, and I'm believing it when I'm in that space, right? I'm seeing it all as black, right? But the acid test is if is that real or is it not real? Right? That's the thing. There's so many illusions that are out there. How do you tell the difference between what's illusion and what's real? Well, I can guarantee that if you're upset, then that's what you're seeing is an illusion. It's not true. Because your perception becomes so clouded when you're upset. It means you're off center. You're not authentic. And that's where all our pain gets created, is when we're in that space, right? That's where we're seeing everything. The whole board game is all black, right? So if you're upset, just try to be aware of that. And that's the raising the awareness thing. And then check yourself and be like, okay, I'm going to step away from this. I'm going to take a little time to myself. I'm just going to go for a walk, be with nature. And I would do that, right? I would go out and go for a walk or whatever. And I would settle down and relax, right? And I'd come back to myself and be like, oh, you know what? You were right? So that's one important point when you're trying to figure out what's illusion and what's not. We also brought up the persistence, right? It took years, took failure, many fails on my part. I landed on my face bad so many times.
And I don't know if I can say one thing about failure. Failure only becomes failure if you accept that's a failure, right? It's just that's just something happens. You fall on your face, but you don't need to take it as failure. You just tripped and fall, and that's a chance to learn how to get up.
How to roll with it.
How to roll, how to get up. And next time, okay, I walk this path, or I'll walk this way, or maybe I'll bike, or whatever, I'll skip, right? So it's not the failure. There's no failure, right? And unless you take it as failure, right? So.
And that's where judgment comes in, right? So judging and being hard on ourselves, and that's why we mentioned that earlier. If you can move away from that in any way, that helps you. That you try to be aware of judgment, and that's a big deal right there with this whole separate subject, but pretty much. But it comes in here. The less judgmental and hard you are on yourself, the better, the more easily you can roll with it, the more easily you can adapt to the situation and make better choices. So and that's a big part of it, is adapting, right? So each time you fall down, you learn. It's an opportunity to learn, right? That's how kids learn to walk.
Some people.
That's the only way they learn, is by falling down.
Right? Some people would give you some negative words, right? And why you couldn't do it, you failed, or whatever. You don't need to take those words. That's their problems, right? Them getting frustrated with you is something that's not your responsibility. If it's happening all the time, you might want to think about having a boundary, healthy boundary, and then don't take those words and then just work on yourself. Like what I do personally, when something didn't go the way I wanted, I will send gratitude. Thank you very much. Okay, that's a great learning opportunity, so I can grow. Right? Sometimes it's hard, but being hard on me doesn't help, and then regretting what I did doesn't help. Right? That's just me collecting all negative energy and then bringing into me, and that's disempowering. So I'll just, even if it's hard, okay, I'm going to switch and then send gratitude. Thank you very much. And I'm going to find a way to learn and grow from this. right? And then you are trusting yourself and empowering yourself, right? So that's making different choice instead of making telling yourself you're a failure or you are learning and growing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Then what you're talking about is the fundamental difference between things, the way you see things, that we can look at things as being wrong, as doing it wrong, or we can look at them as being right and wrong, or we can look at them as being either helpful or not helpful. And that's a very big difference, because it's the difference between using judgment or not using judgment. And we touched on that earlier, and this is maybe a good place to just come back in for a moment. Falling on your face is not wrong. It's just what you did to get there didn't help. And by being hard on yourself afterwards also isn't wrong. It just isn't helpful to be hard on yourself, right? So then it's a different energy you're using to look at the way you're doing things, and it's not judgmental. It's just simply understanding between what's helpful and what's not helpful, and then over time you're generating that awareness and experience that allows you to make the choices that lead to things that are more helpful more often, right? And it just builds on itself. It becomes more and more of a thing. And that, so you're discovering a muscle you never knew you had, and you're learning to use it, right? We talked about the practices already that you can use: meditation, breaks throughout the day, the different ways of looking, like the long distance viewing and short distance, and switching back and forth.
Change your environment.
Change your environment. Get up and walk up and down the stairs for 5 minutes, right? Whatever the case may be. All of those things are helpful for helping you maintain that awareness and develop it over time.
Because be aware. Be aware. It's not really that something that you can grab, right?
Exactly. That's what was so hard for me was to develop that awareness.
So that's why those practices, the physical.
Just saying be aware doesn't really help.
It doesn't help, right? I'm trying to be aware.
I'm aware that I need to be aware.
So it's really abstract, and it's like you don't know, you're not aware. Because you're not aware of what you want, what you need to be aware, right? How can you be aware of things not you're aware of, right? So it's very tricky. So that's why those physical practices, it helps you really, and just little tiny things, right? And it helps, and then you can make different choices, and then that. And get out of tunnel vision to be open, right? Be open, that's the awareness.
And in this case, since we're talking about awareness, it is very helpful to have a different perspective, and scheduling a reading with you I have the blessing to be able to do that whenever you're willing to do it for me, because I'm her least favorite client. She does not like doing readings for me.
You get mad at me.
It's not easy to be a psychic in a relationship and have that person ask you for a reading. That's very tricky ground. You're always pushing. So I'm very grateful to her for putting up with me and all of my shenanigans. So, but doing a reading is a great thing to help with that, to help build that awareness. And if you are having any troubles with this kind of stuff, it's always coming back to the subconscious mind and subconscious beliefs. Like for me, I have to fix the problem because it has to be perfect, because I got to solve, got to see everything like that. And it just builds on itself constantly all day long. And the anxiety coming in, and the PTSD triggers, the whole thing was this big conundrum for me to unravel. so it was a process. It required a lot of patience, but doing Psychosoul made all the difference, right? And if you're having difficulties with it, if you're frustrated, then schedule a free life breakthrough session. So I'll just put the link up here if I can find it quickly. Yeah, here it is. So just visit that website and schedule a session with us, and we'd be happy to help you understand what approach would be appropriate. And if you like the video, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next week on Aether. This was our this happened to also be our 1 year for doing Aether. This was episode 52. So hey, all right. Awesome, right? Mm-hmm. And we'll see you next week at 4:00 Eastern for the next episode, starting the 2nd year. Woo! Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.